Segment 5. Now, having taken this long tour of appeasement through history, we come to Barack Obama's America. The wages of appeasement. Quote, the trajectory of appeasement that had begun in Saigon in 1975 and then proceeded through Tehran in 1979 was now pointing to New York in 2001.
Exactly.
Explain that.
The perception changed of the Vietnam War. And this is something that people have to understand about a great power. A great power is great not just because it has resources, it's because people think it's great. And what does that mean on the international stage? It means that it will defend its interests, that it will reward its friends, that it will punish its enemies. It has prestige. After Vietnam, we no longer had that prestige. The Soviet Union went on a rampage of geopolitical opportunism throughout the world. We began to retreat. We had this crisis of confidence, as the president in his Notre Dame speech, sometimes that's called the malaise speech. I think
Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, Jimmy Carter, the crisis of confidence.
He referred to an, quote, inordinate fear of communism.
Right. And we were guilty. We were neo-imperialists. We were battling the
Okay, but
forces
between
of
all of
nationalism.
that and 2001, you get Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush. You get 12 years of more or less conservative presidents who are spending a lot on defense, standing up to the Soviet Union. Wrapping up the Cold War.
Yes.
Reestablishing the American economic growth, and with it, American prestige, right?
Right, except when it came to Iran, and it came to Iran's assaults and the Marine barracks bombing in 83.
83 in Lebanon.
That, I mean, if there's one thing, and I know you're a Ronald Reagan guy, but that was the biggest mistake that was made, is not to punish. That was Iran. That was Hezbollah, or what would become Hezbollah, trained, financed by the Iranians. Iran declared war on us. Khomeini declared war on the United States in 1979, and they have been at war with us ever since. And that was the assault on our troops that went unpunished. And if you go and you look at the writings of Zawahiri and bin Laden, and they're exhorting their trainees, they come back to these over and over again. They ran from Saigon, they ran from Beirut, they ran from Mogadishu, right? Black Hawk Down story.
Right.
They will always run because they're spiritually corrupt, and all of their power and their wealth and their military power, that doesn't mean anything because they don't have any beliefs. Any spiritual beliefs. That's their perception. And and we can say, well, that perception's incorrect.
George H.W. Bush didn't run away from Iraq when they
No, that's what was that. Let me confess, I don't care that there weren't any WMDs. Okay?
I'm talking about George H.W. Bush, the first.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm just trying to get you to get us up to 2001.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So 2001, despite wrapping up the Cold War, standing up to the Soviet Union, despite driving Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait, the terrorists still look at us and say, with regard to us, with regard to the terrorists, the United States is still weak. That's the argument.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they feel emboldened.
Sure.
We get the terrorist attack of 9/11.
And listen, they beat in their worldview, and what we have to do is think about in their worldview, they beat the Soviets too in Afghanistan.
Right. They used our Stinger missiles,
of course,
and material, but still.
What it's sold
they
as,
were the ones who did the fighting.
So big deal, you stood up to the Soviet Union, right? Look at us, a little ragtag band of mujahideen, in Afghanistan. We took them on and we beat them too. So the next step now is the second world hegemon that interferes with Islam's destiny, which is the United States.
The wages of appeasement. Quote, President Obama believes in the UN Security Council and the Human Rights Council, and treaties like the NPT, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and START, the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, in the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, in multilateral cooperation. But the regimes with which he wishes to engage do not.
No.
Explain.
No. Look, a weak tyrant or illiberal regime or whatever you want to call it, of course, they will participate in all these international sorts of institutions because they can become an instrument for the weak in their relationships with the strong. They will tell the world, when they know the world is listening, what they think the world wants to hear, that they believe in you know, this sort of diplomacy, and they believe in sitting down and having. I mean, who was the great genius of that? Yasser Arafat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he would tell us everything we wanted to hear, all of our roadmaps, all of our conferences, all. Well, at the same time, in Arabic to his people, he's talking about jihad, you know, from the river to the sea.
You've got to give Barack Obama high marks for prosecuting the war in Afghanistan, though.
Oh, no question. No question.
Okay.
I'm astonished. What I'm astonished by, since you brought that up, is how his base on the left have swallowed that. Because, you know, on the one hand, we're going to try Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in New York, but President Obama is judge, jury, and executioner in Afghanistan when he has a predator go in and blast a compound, and we don't know who's in that compound.
Okay, so but Barack Obama takes office, and he says he's going to shut down Guantanamo. He hasn't shut down Guantanamo. They're going to try all the bad guys,
right, that's not gonna happen.
And that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So you have to say, one, Barack Obama has prosecuted the war in Afghanistan, and he's done what General Petraeus has advised him to do. Two, he's backed off some of the crazier things that he intended, shutting down Guantanamo.
Right.
I mean, you could say he's grown in office. Three, although he's talked a certain talk about international cooperation and so forth, these international agencies that you mentioned, when it comes right down to it, his actions haven't been that bad.
No, but what he does with the right hand, he undoes with the left. Again, in the realm of perception, which is important, the speech in Cairo, which was a disastrous, groveling speech, as well as being woefully historically inaccurate. This failure to, you know, recognize the roots of jihadist terror in traditional Islam, the courtship, and let's face it, he's not the only one that did this. The Bush administration is guilty of some of the same things, of the Muslim people thinking that, well, gee, if we tell them how much we admire their wonderful religion, they'll start to like us. I mean, those sorts of things have compromised the effectiveness. But the worst thing is, in terms of Afghanistan and Iraq, is saying there's an end date here.
Final question, Bruce, and this brings us back again to your subtitle, Wages of Appeasement, Ancient Athens, Munich, and Obama's America. If you could give one or two sentences of advice to Barack Hussein Obama, who will, after all, remain president for 2 more years and maybe for 6, what would you say?
Listen to what the Islamists say and believe that they mean what they say, and that it is a spiritual good to them, and spiritual goods cannot be traded for material goods. You cannot bribe them. And I would have told the same thing to George Bush. You're not going to bribe them. It's not going to be political freedom, the right to vote, more cable channels, more apps for your iPhones. These are people who inhabit a spiritual world of ultimate goods, of a relationship with their God, of responsibilities and obligations. When we disparage that and say that it's a distortion, that it's some sort of neuroses, that they don't really mean it, that they're just totalitarians, we completely fail to understand the people who want to destroy us. And until we take them at their word, I don't believe we will be able to come up with the right sorts of policies.
Take them at their word, and then do what about it?
Realize that there's not going to be any resolution outside of force.
Take them at their word and then rain predator drones down on them.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. As I say, you know, they always tell us we love death more than you love life. Then we should just give them what they love and show them that we mean it.
Bruce Thornton, author of The Wages of Appeasement. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm Peter Robinson for Uncommon Knowledge. Thanks for joining us.